just like EastEnders, the soap opera that is Brexit has been through a whole series of mini-dramas in the weeks we've been away. The Labour Party, largely thanks to the skills of Shadow Brexit Secretary Keir Starmer, actually reached a coherent policy on Brexit, which, if implemented, would mean us staying in both the single market and the customs union for some years, and possibly even forever. The Liberal Party got a new leader in Vince Cable, a committed Remainer who believes a second referendum on the terms of exit is essential and will try to get cross-party support for this position. And meanwhile, the government is still wallowing around with a damaged leader and cabinet members fighting a series of Brexit battles amongst themselves. What now seems clear is that to get any sort of deal to leave will mean Britain giving the EU at least £50 billion. The Brexiteers didn't put that on the side of Boris's bust, did they? In turn, what this is likely to lead to is outrage from both UKIP and the nutty end of the Tory party and chaos in Parliament. No wonder Mrs May was desperate to get a bigger majority. For committed Remainers like me, the changes in both Labour and Liberal parties, combined with the shambles in government, is only good news. At last, we might see proper democracy in action, with MPs voting according to their beliefs, rather than doing what the whips tell them.
Good up some, apart from your payoff, which is the problem we have, is that Parliament isn't doing what the whips tell them, it's doing what the country told them. And that is the essential. They are over a barrel. And the piteous sight we saw in the Commons this morning of MPs debating Brexit, when we know that 3/4 of them campaigned and voted for Remain. So you've never seen a more parliamentary sight of turkeys voting for Christmas. There's pain in the Commons at the moment. Nobody really thinks it's a good idea, but David Cameron held a referendum. The country voted 52% for out. There is nothing, apparently, that can stop that. I hope you're right about continuous transitional arrangements, but I've got an even better idea, which is what we should do is get the Passport Office to print 17.6 million of those hard-backed blue passports, which say Her Britannic Majesty on them, and this is a member of, Her Royal, the Great Britain and UK and all the rest of it. Send each person who voted Leave one of these hardback blue passports, tell them it's all happened, and then just forget all about it. Because as far as I'm concerned, that's the best way forward. We are heading for calamity.
Well, that's largely what happened with fox hunting, of course.
They just said it had stopped, and then it carried on.
The people who campaigned for it were happy, and the people who just carried on. But I was quite interested in Lord Adonis's comment when he says he believes that the Labour Party will eventually, sometime in the next 6 to 12 months, support another referendum, this time on the terms of the exit.
Well, breaking news. I actually talked to Jeremy Corbyn on Tuesday night, and I said as a Lib Dem, and I'm glad to see that the Labour Party is moving closer to a Lib Dem position of transitional arrangements can obtain, being in the customs union, being in the single market. Also, you're opposing the Great Repeal Bill on the grounds of ministers were having too much executive power to change the law without things going to Parliament. And Jeremy Corbyn looked at me and he said, Rachel, there was a referendum and the Labour Party is committed to executing the result of that referendum. So if it does change and become a softer Brexit, it will not be because Jeremy Corbyn has changed his mind.
Well, that's the skill that has been seen this summer, that actually they're in a position that I suspect Jeremy Corbyn would have always opposed, because Jeremy Corbyn was always a Brexiteer.
You say that, Greg. You talk about Sir Keir Starmer, just to remind everybody, he's, of course, Labour's Brexit secretary. You talked about his skills and how coherent it was. Let's just hear a little bit of what he said.
What we've said about the final arrangement is this, that we want a partnership with the EU that retains the benefits of the single market and the customs union. We are open to a discussion that leaves a customs union with the EU on the table as a viable option. We haven't swept it off the table.
This could be permanent.
We haven't swept that off the table. A customs union with the single with the EU.
So, not in the single market, but the benefit of the single market. Staying in the customs union and talking of sweeping reminds me a little of Trigger's broom, I think. If you recall, 17 new heads, 14 new handles, but still the same broom. That's presumably our EU policy, is it?
Well, I think what I think we'll end up at... I mean, there's a whole series of stages going to come through this, but I think we'll end up with a deal that isn't acceptable to a lot of people for all sorts of reasons, and I think we'll have another vote on it.
You see another vote?
I think we'll have another vote on it, yes.
Yes, but it can't be called a second referendum. It's got to be called a first referendum on the terms.
Yes.
The term second referendum is toxic, and obviously it did for the Lib Dems in the last election.
I mean, you two, as token Brexiteers...
I'm holding back for now.
I've
not interrupted you. Have you noticed? I'm waiting.
I'm curious as to how ordinary people who voted Brexit, what they make of this, because it is really confusing. It's really confusing. Nobody seems to really know what they're doing. I thought Keir Starmer set out the most coherent Labour vision that I've heard so far, but I'm still confused, honestly. And David Davis, to me, seems to be in a complete fantasy parallel universe.
He's not in a fantasy paradise at all.
That aside,
he's working very hard.
Well, what do you think the ordinary Brexit
We've got a clip
voter...
from David Davis. Let's look at the clip from Davis now.
In July, the Commission set out the European Union position. We have a duty to our taxpayers to interrogate that position rigorously, and that's what we did line by line. It may be a little bit of a shock to the Commission, but that's what we did line by line.
You know, you just said there, I don't know how you can say with a straight face that Brexiteers had a bad summer. I think the people that had a bad summer was the EU. You have Martin Selmayr, we know who he is, affectionately called the Monster. He's the Luxembourg Chief of Staff. He's saying people in Britain were stupid to vote Leave. We were stupid. And he said, but, you know, we could probably reverse it if we wanted to. Then you've got Barnier saying he's going to educate us all, teach us a lesson on what Brexit really means. The French and the Poles have been scrapping all summer. Brussels is in total disarray. You know, they're the people who've had a bad... I think they've shown their hand. I think they've shown themselves to be intransigent, bullying, you know, rude. They've taken the mick out of our negotiating team constantly.
This is exactly why I say David Davis is in a fantasy
But he's
universe.
not in a fantasy land. He's doing what he just said.
EU, I don't think that's a great position for them to take, but the point is they can, because they hold all of this bargaining power. The point is we need a deal with the EU.
Yes, of course we do.
So they can say what they like. They can be as patronising
But I thought we want to do a deal, but they're not allowing us to, because what they're saying is, they're saying pay us a big load of money up front and then we'll talk to it, which is really insulting to everyone in the EU, all the families in the EU.
I've got a lot of time for David Davis, actually. I know him quite well and I've got a lot of time for him. I think he'll probably get a deal in the end. But I think that deal will be unacceptable to a great chunk of the Tory party, to a lot of the Brexiteers. They're never going to agree. Those people, I mean, you've only got to listen to UKIP. They're never going to agree to us giving £50 billion to the EU.
But Afua, why would you want to stay with an organisation that when one of you seeks to leave, you get bullied, you get treated in a vile way, you get told you need to be...
Come on. You really think David Davis is being bullied?
We need to teach you a lesson. Why would you want to
destroy you?
I just think it's an extraordinary way to go about... What is their... Harmony and unity is their slogan, right? Harmony in unity. Well, where is the unity there? They can't wait to pour a bucket of cold water.
They're just telling the truth, which is that the deal has to be approved by 27.
Rachel, the people
don't point at me.
I'm not pointing, I learned that from your brother. The people decided that they want to leave. I'm sorry it's against your wishes. We have to respect it.
52%.
God, let's not go back there, Nick.
52% decided, not the people. 48 didn't want to leave. So, I mean, let's get this right.
37% of the country.
Yes, who voted to leave. But let's forget about that. In the end, there was going to be which is why did Theresa May go to the country? Because she needed a bigger majority to get through something that some of her party will never agree to. And that's the sort of deal they're going to come back with. And in the end, it'll fall apart because of that.
Her party didn't vote, though. It was the people who voted.